Something, of course, that I'm not really kind of interested in. I have to move this out of the way. It's not going to work. I don't know if this is even working now, so I don't know if you're watching this in repeat or you're streaming it live. But before, when I was trying to do this, for some reason, it wasn't working that well. Let's see. Let me see. This I can delete. Let me see. There we go. Delete forever. Yes, I understand. Delete forever. No, just before, actually, I was doing something, and this is ridiculous. That was stupid. I know what the problem is, actually. Today, it is a holiday here, and a lot of people are using the internet. So if somebody does come online, and we can chat a little bit. And let's see. Is there sound here? I don't know. Let me try this. Hold a second. No. Is that the one? No. That's the one. No. That's the one. No. That's the one. Ha ha ha. Actually, that's kind of funny to do because you can chat. Anyway, nice to see who's here on this Sunday afternoon. I'm going to move this out of the way. There we go. That's a little bit better. See, you get this when you get older. Anyway, something actually I'm not a fan of, and I've never been so. And let me put some context into that before I start going into it. But complaining, I mean, look, you can whinge and complain about anything. But there is a difference between complaining and complaining. And there's a few types of motorcyclists out there who just kind of, after a while, it kind of goes, the ones that will complain left, right, and center about anything and everything. That kind of annoys me. Oh, it's too hot. Oh, it's too cold. Oh, my hands are too hot. Oh, my hands are too cold. We'll wear gloves. But the worst kind of motorcyclists out there, or even, I mean, I think this would also apply to car drivers, actually kind of any vehicle, are the ones that kind of feel entitled that they control the roads and that basically can do whatever they want. I bring this up because there was an interesting story that happened last week in South Taiwan. There was this guy, I believe he was American. No, he was American. And was moving his family of four on a scooter. Right there. Anybody who does that is an idiot, especially because there's two kids. It is apparently he was at a traffic light and there was another vehicle behind him. And basically what happened was apparently one of his children, he had to reposition. The guy behind him started to get angry, then kind of just drove around him. And if you look at the video, the guy on the scooter then chased the guy on the Mercedes. When they stopped, they got into an argument. The guy on the Mercedes called him the N-word, and I'll speak about that in a moment. And then the guy, this American, is like, oh, you're trying to be so tough. You're trying to be so tough. Jesus, what a moron. Okay, well, first of all, being called the N-word, the guy's white. If he was smart, if he had any brain cells, he would have said, you can't call me that, I'm not black. You could have called me a hunky, you could have called me this, that, or the other. But no, he didn't. He wanted to try to pick a fight. And the guy was from part of the U.S. where I think he drives a pickup truck and has a 6-shooter in his pocket, packing heat all the time, and has a brother named Billy Bob and a sister named Billy Bob. His parents are named Billy Bob. The whole family is named Billy Bob. Anyway, commenced trying to have a fight with him. Now, the guy in the Mercedes, when you look at the video, did go around him. Now, this American guy then started claiming in media outlets, and I'll post a link below, that excuse me, he was just trying to, do that to protect the safety of the children, etc., etc., and all that. Well, if you really are concerned about the safety of your children, don't put them on an effing scooter already with your wife. Scooters are designed for 2 people, not 4. And you see it here in Taiwan quite a bit, where you'll have an entire family, mother, father, kid, sometimes 2 kids, and either one kid is not wearing a helmet or both of them are not wearing a helmet. And you kind of, well, how can you feel sorry for them if one gets injured or dies in an accident? I'm sorry, I cannot, because use your brain. You just don't do it. And I kind of got into a bit of a spat with him online because I thought this guy's ridiculous. I don't know who's more silly, the guy in the Mercedes or him. And I thought, no, this American guy for allowing his family of 4, saying he cares about their safety and letting them on a scooter. Nonsense. Not everybody, he responds back, not everybody can drive, not everybody can afford a car. I'm like, that's impossible. That is just impossible, because getting a second-hand car to go from A to B like you were doing that night is not expensive. Or just take a taxi. Anyway, that was my whinging about that story. Why am I doing this live thing? Well, actually, it is holiday, and I just uploaded 2 new videos. We haven't uploaded some videos for a while. It's because we were trying to think. I was trying to think what we should be doing with this channel and coming up with some ideas. So we did a road one. We did one on the Honda CBR that we got back in September. That's kind of one review. There's some other ones that are going to come with it because, one of my biggest criticism of motorcycle reviews, especially online, is that what you will hear quite often, and I'm not looking at the camera, I'm looking at the chat window, kind of going back and forth. There's a bit of a delay, is how can you review a bike that you've only ridden once in one day or in a few days? Now, for myself, to really get a feeling for a bike, it's something that I have to ride around for a bit to really sort of figure out what it is like. Wait, I'm just plugging this in here. Because you really don't know until you've actually had it for a while what the bike is actually like. Now, this one that we did, we filmed it back in September. And it wasn't even a review. It was just talking about my first impression of it, things that I like about it, things that I don't like about it. But in the next coming weeks, I'm going to do another one, since I've now had it for a few months, and I have a better idea what the bike is like. So that's going to be coming up on the channel, as well as some other videos, I think, in the next few days. Lately, online, you are coming across a lot of videos, how would I put it, that are reviewing these so-called vintage bikes. Now, vintage bikes, okay, it's all fine and dandy, but when companies try to come up with what I call new kind of vintage bikes, I'm really not too sure about that. See, because the problem is, the problem with a lot of these new vintage bikes is they have an idea for something, And okay, you know, the idea is all sort of nice and dandy, and it's all good. But the reality, of course, is that many of them are complete and utter rubbish. So the other thing that I don't like about them is, I mean, okay, let me try to put it into context. Old bikes, yes, I do like old bikes, and I do like vintage bikes because they're actually they are really, really nice looking. Wait, I'm just moving something here. But there is a problem with them. They are rubbish. I'm just messaging some stuff while I'm babbling at the same time. Paste. The thing about vintage bikes, okay, if it's an original classic vintage one, I totally get it because they are beautiful machines, but they always break down. I mean, it was not until the Japanese started making them. I mean, there's a very good reason why companies like Triumph and Norton and others kind of all went bankrupt. I mean, the Triumph today is not the same, really not the same anymore. There is a reason why these companies all kind of went to belly up, because they were making things that are just no good. And then you have these companies, Royal Enfield and others, Jawa is another one, that try to recapture something about their old bikes. Now they make them more modern, they try to update them a bit, but they're just, I'm sorry, you know, it's 2023. And when I hear people say, oh, things were made better back then and all that, that's complete nonsense, because what we have now is way better than what we had in the olden days. I mean, everything gets better with time. That is just the reality. Bikes next year are going to be better than the bikes from the past year, or the past 5 years, or the past 20 years, and so on and so on. So things do improve. Now, some might use the excuse, oh, but now there's so many electronics, and when they break, they're so expensive, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but it's stuff that can be, you really don't have to worry about that much. Bikes no longer leak oil. They don't have a lot of issues that you have with, especially a lot of those old tussers. But sadly, a lot of people, when it comes to old motorcycles, or even for that matter of fact, old cars, look at them with rose-colored glasses. And the problem with looking at it in rose-colored glasses is that you are looking at rubbish. It's just the way it is. You know, these things that are from the past are okay, but you know, things changed. Oh, it's just so annoying. Oh, what do we have here? I was trying to do the proper thumbnail before, but it didn't really work out. It didn't really work out that well. I have to get a glass of water soon. I'm just going to leave this thing running. What? Yeah, I mean, making a big deal about things is just so funny. I don't get it. But yeah, I mean, like Jawa, which was a very famous old company that actually made excellent two-stroke motorcycles. They were really, really good. But anybody who buys one now is a little bit of a fool. They look nice, but they're slightly underpowered. That engine is not very good. And the other big problem is Okay, here we go. This is another nitwit. I'm just gonna get a glass of water. I did something very foolish before. I bought a coffee on my way back home. Here it is. But it's empty because I left the other one someplace else. So I need to get some water. Talk amongst yourselves. You know, it's funny. Just a moment ago, I was thinking about this, and I was telling you like how a lot of these old motorcycles are kind of they're just bad. They're just bad. I mean, okay, an old motorcycle's good if you do the work yourself, but otherwise they're just more trouble than they're worth. And companies like Royal Enfield, which the thing is, I don't have any problem with Royal Enfield themselves. But we have to realize one thing: their quality is in no way near the quality of a Yamaha or Suzuki or Kawasaki or Honda. Not even close. They are what they are. Royal Enfield's quality has improved greatly over the last 25 years, but we need to remember it's still Indian quality. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but that is just reality. They are Indian quality. We're talking about India here, a country that in 2023 is still making winding up gramophones like Victrolas. Yes, the only place in the world that is still making them new. We're talking about a country who produced the last 78 RPMs as late as 1999 2000. Do you expect them to really produce a good motorcycle? This is a country that is still producing the Hindustan, a car based on an old British, I think it was the Hindustan Ambassador it's called now. What was it a Morris? It's based on an old British car from the 1950s, which they're still making now. I mean, of course, the quality is not going to be good. But I mean, that's just, again, and people say, oh, that's unfair, they're great bikes. Well, they're not great bikes. I mean, I had a Royal Enfield for 2 years, and the thing is, I like the bike. I really like the bike. But just for the problems that I had when it was under warranty. I mean, under warranty now. Let me go through them. 5 days after I got the bike, the filler cap started leaking fuel and kept popping open. The rubber seal had dried. Great bike, really? Yes. Paint chipping under the tank. Next problem. And this was the funniest one. I went in to get it serviced. Was riding on the expressway, doing maybe 90 to 100 kilometers an hour, which is very fast. And the front light just started like moving. I could see it moving. I could see it like, that's weird. And it was like moving very slowly, and then down. And in the headphones, I'm talking to Ben, and I'm saying to him, my light, my light. And he responds back to me, what are you talking about? I said, my light has gone. And what? Just me, I'm pulling over. So I pulled over, and literally the only thing that was holding the front headlamp was the bloody wire. This is just after I had the bloody thing serviced. Next problem. Oil leaking like crazy on a bike that has less than 14,000 kilometers. Bloody well leaking oil after it was just checked. After I just had a safety check. Drip, 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 drip. When did I fix that? And after I had that fixed, it was leaking oil from another place. And then there was a worn camshaft. And then the spokes were out of alignment. And then the throttle had a sticking issue, which isn't very good. But the worst of all was the one I just mentioned, the bloody camshaft. I mean, how can a bike with 14,000 kilometers have a worn camshaft? That is just impossible. One of my bikes is a Honda CB350. CB500. It's almost 45 years old. That engine has never been opened. The camshaft is exactly the same. And that bike has almost 100,000 kilometers on it. This is a new one in less than 2 years. Less than 14,000 kilometers, and the camshaft goes, piece of rubbish. The worst, of course, was that the dealer here in Taiwan said, oh, you have to wait maybe 6 months. That's ridiculous. The bike was still under warranty. It had like 1 more month to go out of warranty, so they had to find it. But this is ridiculous. I mean, imagine these were just some of the problems. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the leather seat started coming apart after 2 months. The front suspension started leaking after 6 months. Indian quality to the max, poor. Now the dealer itself, actually I got the money back, surprisingly, because this dealer has had a number of issues with this bike. Not the Royal Enfields in general, because they're just bad. They didn't even know how to service. I was very surprised going for the first oil change while under warranty, which was a free oil change from the dealer that I bought it. And the guy didn't know how to change the oil. How can you not know how to change the oil? That engine has 3 drain points. One, the main one. There's also another oil filter, which is a mesh metal oil filter, which you just take off and clean. And then there's another one. Didn't even know that. Didn't even know there was a second oil filter on that goddamn thing. It was just ridiculous. Like monkeys. No, I'm sorry. I think monkeys in a zoo could do a much better job at doing it. Yes, I'm having a cigarette. Because on streaming and podcasts, you can do that kind of thing. On television, I wouldn't. He is not television, you see. But anyway, to make a long story short, while the bike was still under warranty, and just after they told me you have to wait maybe 6 or 8 months to get a replacement camshaft, I told them to bugger off, basically. And I said, okay, I'm going to make known all the stuff on this. Got the money back. They actually bought it back just to keep quiet. Now, we're talking about Indian quality. Honda have a bike called the Honda 350 CB350 Highness. This is also a bike made in India for the Indian market. Yes, it is a Honda, but it is a Honda for the Indian market with Indian quality. These bikes as well, I would have to say, again, they're for one market. Honda really doesn't care. I don't blame them, because they're just bad. Just bad, period. And I know a number of people here in Taiwan that have a CB350 Highness. One of them has already been waiting 9 months to get a part. A friend of mine just told me that he went for something simple, with just a valve lifter, and it took them 6 months to get the part. I mean, so silly. And the thing is, you see, Honda in Taiwan will not service them because they're not officially imported by Honda. So here in Taiwan, how it works is you have the main dealers. You'll have, let's say, Harley Davidson, Moto Guzzi, BMW, Triumph, Honda, Suzuki, Kawasaki, and I think I left one out. Oh, Ducati. Did I mention BMW? Well, I'll mention it now. BMW. They all have flagship stores and they have a number of locations in Taiwan. These are the official importers of these bikes. If you buy, of course, from a Honda bike from a Honda official location, you will pay more. Then you have what's called gray market. Now, the gray market dealers are just that. They're gray market. So they import the bikes themselves. They import models that, say, Honda does not import into Taiwan. Let's say like what's it called? The Honda Cub, the Super Cub, or the Monkey Bike, and a number of other models. These are brought in by the gray market suppliers. And because of that, sometimes the prices are lower, but anytime there's a problem, Honda Taiwan and Honda themselves are like, oh, you didn't buy it from us. We don't officially import it. We don't recognize it. So we're not going to service it. They won't even honor the warranty. So you have to deal with a gray market importer who cannot get his parts from Honda in here or anywhere else. He has to get them through third-party suppliers. That's where the nightmare is. It's all very, I mean, it is sort of silly, to be perfectly honest, but I mean, if I was Honda, I'd probably do the same thing. So, yeah. Gray market. No, keep away from them. I mean, so right now I'm looking for another one for this year. I have the CB 1000R Black Edition, which I got last year, and I'm trying to go between one and two different ones for this year. And you aren't a motorcyclist, as far as I'm concerned, until at some point you've owned a Ducati. It's a bit like a petrol head from Ificaz. You're not truly a petrol head unless you had an Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeos are fantastic cars when they're new. And then, of course, they go all Italian on you. The electrics break down and everything else. Ducatis are kind of a little bit like that. I know a Ducati, one of the biggest complaints I've heard from Ducati owners who said that, maybe the weather is bad, they don't ride it for 3 months, and then they have something during that time just breaks. So I'm considering a Ducati, but I don't want to buy a new one because I don't intend on keeping it. I'm planning to get a second-hand Ducati Monster just for 1 year to say that, okay, I finally owned a Ducati for 1 year. Not longer than that. I'd never buy a new one. I'd never buy a new one. There's some pretty good, decent second-hand ones that I've been looking at, which are actually not bad. Not bad at all. It's either that or a BMW R9T. Not 9T, R, the letter R, 9, N-I-N-E, and the letter T, R9T, which I also like. So I'm kind of tossing it up for just 1 year. I mean, I've had BMWs before. My favorite BMW of all time was a BMW R69, a BMW R71, a BMW R75. These were my favorite ones. These were older ones, of course. Two of them had the sidecar on it, which was actually great. It was great for traveling because you can just load the sidecar up with practically everything. Spare tires, parts, small generator, camping gear. But I want to get a little bit of faster Ducati BMW. Actually, the funny thing is, when I was deciding when I bought the Honda CB 1000R Black Edition, just a few months before, I had actually ordered a BMW R18, which is a brand new one from BMW. And I didn't get it in the end. At the end, actually, I canceled the order, got my full deposit back from BMW. Strict only because that the time first was, oh, we're coming in 3 months, then it was 4 months, then 6 months, and I'm like, okay, I don't wait any more long. I won't wait any longer. And then actually, I ended up liking the Honda CB bike because Honda at that point just started bringing them into Taiwan, and I actually liked the Honda CB bike a lot more. Now, when it comes to naked bikes, I really have never owned naked bikes, but I've ridden them, but I've never really owned one before. So actually, you can say that Honda, this CB bike, is the first naked bike that I have that I bought new and owned. I've ridden before, but I wasn't always a big fan of naked bikes. Something like the Yamaha MT-09 or MT-10, which I love them. I didn't want to get those ones. First, because there's so many of them here in Taiwan. And second, they're personally, I find them a little bit uncomfortable after a long trip. The ergonomics on them is just, no, it's not really for me. The CB bike is definitely way more comfortable. Now it isn't, the other thing as well, like this CB bike, which is interesting, is like you would never get a touring bike. You wouldn't get a naked bike for touring, but luckily on this one you can do some touring. Just because the nature of the beast. I bought some panniers for it, made by SW Tech, called the ABS panniers, which are for that bike. And you can actually tour on it. It is comfortable enough to do touring on it. And if you want to do a little bit of racing, you can also do a little bit of racing on it. So that's the nice thing about it. The MT-09, which I love, the MT-10 I love. Like I said, they're good for riding fast, but the problem is I would get a little bored with it. So I decided to go with something a little bit more comfortable. And, if I want to drive like a maniac, I can still do it on that one. That's the nice thing. Wow. I'm just looking at some stuff coming up here. What is this guy? Oh, another one complaining. Whinging. Oh, yeah, that reminds me. Ha 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 ha. I just looked over to my side here and I saw something that I have to go and get processed soon. So I shot some film recently. I mean, film, not video, but film, actually on film. And meaning to get it processed, and I just have to get around to it. I completely forgot about it. Good idea, Keith. Remember that. That will be fun once I get it processed. Something I shot in black and white that I think when I post it online, people might find it interesting. But what was I going to say? Oh, doesn't really matter. Lost my train of thought. So what video am I going to upload in a couple of days from now? As I said at the beginning, I've been sort of trying to think of different ways to do the videos. Have a few travel ones, because I know the weather's going to be nice, so I'm going to do a travel one, which is going to be fun in a few days. Anyway, I'm going to run. I think 35 minutes is long enough. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we're going to do another one of these. This one, actually, if you come across it and say, why didn't you hear about it when it was live? Because I didn't really publicize it. I wanted to see how my connection was. So, because I was having a few connectivity problems earlier. This is just gibberish, you know. Battling on about absolute nonsense is a jolly good thing. Anyway, have a good day. Have a good day. Gong si fa cai. Gong hei fa choi. The year of the rabbit. I know a joke about that. But I think I'll leave that for another time. Anyway, everybody have a good holiday. And if you're not in an area with having a holiday, have a good holiday anyway. Talk to you all later. Bye.